Hey everybody, Asher here. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and if you've been here for a while, welcome to the channel update, first one for 2023. Now, I do have a lot to go into, so I'm going to try to keep this moving a little bit. If you're new to the channel, just know that I do a lot of like strategy games, sort of thinking games, not so much like Twitch fast games because my hands are not what they used to be. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, though. You can see the current series listing at the top. Starsector, I'd had my longest running series ever on the channel just end. And so I will be starting up another one soon, and I don't mean Blizzard of old soon, I mean actually soon. So that's good news. Right now, I'm also running Dwarf Fortress. We may do one, may do more than one. It really just depends on how much fun we find. And right now, the last spell is another early access game that I'm revisiting from early access before. Some other ones that are on my radar include War Tales. I almost said Warframe. Yeah, we're talking about the Twitch stuff here. But we're talking about War Tales and Darkest Dungeon. Really two of the big ones. Although early access is an interesting place right now because it kind of comes in waves. There's some really good ones that come, and then there's some ones that really need a little bit more time in the oven. And that is a little bit of an insight into the future here. There are some big releases that I am very interested in coming forward. If you have any history with this channel at all, and some of you do, then the one that you know that I'm looking forward to the most by far is Kerbal Space Program 2. So, very exciting. That's out in February. There's actually a few February releases that seem interesting. And as always, I am open and happy to take suggestions as well. You can put those on the Discord. You can put those in comments here. It's all good. But of course, it wouldn't be an update without discussing the text on the page here, which is that 2022 killed my dreams. And probably the best way to take a look at that is just through the lens, we'll go like this, I guess, of real life and say, I remember during the pandemic when I was busy working my ass off because even though court shut down for a lot of other people, it didn't really for me. Other people are like, oh, I finally get to work on this long-term project, things I always wanted to do, places I always, well, not places I always want to go because you get to stay home. But a lot of people's like, I'm going to work on this art project. I'm going to work on home improvement. I know way too many people that had COVID babies and are now having COVID regrets over babies. Whew. But one of my hopes and dreams and things that I've held on for a year, or not a year, for quite some time, is to make my own game. It's something I used to do back in middle school and early high school with ZZT, which is a very old epic mega game shareware production. And I never quite got back into it. And 2022 killed that dream. It's not Godot's fault. I will tell you that I did switch from working with Game Maker once they went to this subscription model to working with Godot, and I was actually doing okay learning Godot. It's the other reason why I'm killing the dream. It's not that 2022 killed the dream. I'm killing the dream. So I'm putting blame on the wrong person. I'm sensationalizing the video. Report this shit. But let's talk about my favorite games from the past year. There's two. So if there's two games from 2022 I want you to check out, it's Chained Echoes and Symphony of War. And they dovetail very nicely into the kind of project that I was hoping to do. I'll put some B-roll, C-roll, A-roll footage up here just so you can see what the games kind of look like. Let me start with Chained Echoes. It's not the longest game in the world, but it is a very tight package that does not really overstay its welcome. It combines a lot of classic JRPG elements, and while the story is not like the greatest thing since sliced bread, it is very entertaining. It keeps you going. The writing is well done, and that has been one of my big complaints in years past, is that writing in video games is just kind of an afterthought, and thank goodness for the indie scene for really stepping it up the past few years. And so when I look at a game like that, it's just like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants to make their own RPG. For a lot of people, it's the kind of game that they grew up with or something. And you have a story to tell, you slap a game behind it. That's fine. But there is one thing that I'd always said, if somebody could make a game that looks, so walks, talks, acts like a game that I don't see anybody make, it's that I would love to see somebody make a true style of Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. I love those Japanese translated titles. And it took this long, but Symphony of War, which is my actual game of the year, even though Chained Echoes is very good too. Symphony of War, you should definitely check it out. It has a lot of the different elements that you would want from an Ogre Battle style game. You have small squads that you run around on the map. Now, granted, the map's very Fire Emblem-esque, but they fight other squads, they level up, there's class changing, there's lots of strategy that you can do in forming your squads, and then there's a story that goes into all kinds of different intrigue, but it's mostly it does a good job of like giving you the macro scope, looking at like the big world, but also letting you get to know the characters a bit too. There's a lot of opportunities lost in a lot of games where it's just like, I want to just focus on the really big stuff, or I just want to focus on like the one tiny thing and fuck the rest of the world. We don't care what's going on. So this game, Symphony of War, does a great job of balancing between both of that. And although it doesn't have like as hugely divergent branching storylines as maybe other things that I would hope for, like maybe a visual novel where you don't have to worry about the other game elements. The fact is, at some point you got to finish the game, and just it's impressive as hell that somebody took RPG Maker, beat the engine with a pipe, and turned it into this. So that's awesome. So my dream game, and I'll just we have Death of a Project here. I'm going to embarrass the shit out of myself in a minute, just so you know. It is a combination of like some form of JRPG where you have a lot of these elements just kind of working together, dovetailing together, following a bunch of different people. You have a lot of this framework from like Ogre Battle 64. And then really the icing on the cake is a game that I actually haven't played. And it's kind of frustrating to watch people play it on Twitch or something, because oftentimes they're just not actually playing it. They're sitting there talking to viewers, but it's cool. It's the Oregon Trail. Yes, that old fantastic classic. And kind of what my original thought for this was, is to take something that I really want to be a story and then put it in a framework of where I always think of like even Final Fantasy Tactics, Ogre Battle, Tactics Ogre. They all kind of do this where you wander around. I'm going the wrong way in the camera. You wander around on the map, and there you are. And I think to myself, hey, there's another layer. You could go there. Oregon Trail, even the old classic version, has a great sort of pace of like you're going down the path. The gameplay loop, you have some supplies and turf. That's not as big of a deal to me. But now, granted, let's give a thumbs up where a thumbs up is due. I appreciate that someone remaking the Oregon Trail in 2022 is going to try to make it less racist. That's awesome. But from where I'm sitting, what I was hoping to do with kind of a game here is like, well, no one's really done or talked about the Oregon Trail in like a JRPG framework, things like that. Like you see it pop up in other games. Hell, there's plenty of Oregon Trail style clones. But just the kind of mashup idea here, I think it will be an excellent vehicle to kind of just, you have your combat, sure, but you also have the ability to kind of have a window into interactions with regular people that you meet on the trail, on the place where you're going from place to place. And you can help them, you cannot help them, you could run into them later. Those are all the ideas. But granted, you can probably tell that some of the issues that I'm discussing here are really things that if you're going to have your own dream idea here, my thought is always dream big, but the practical advice is to dream realistic and cut things instead of making things too big. But I didn't even get that far. Let's be real here. I'm working full-time as an attorney. That is my job. If I've done something for the past few years during the pandemic to improve myself, it's being better at my job is part of it. I've really grown a lot as a practitioner. But what it boils down to is that in order to make something in a timely fashion in the way that I'd want to, I know that I would need to start dropping other stuff, like, say, my actual job. And I can't do that. I know there's plenty of exceptional people that do that, but where I'm at in my life, where I'm at mentally, which is also very important, I can't do that, especially when for a lot of this I'm starting from not up here. I don't have these skills. I'm starting from low. Let's talk about the Death of a Project here. We're going to switch it over real quick to the display capture mode for a second here. Like I said, I'm going to embarrass myself just a touch here, but I don't mind. The reason that I don't mind is that I think it's important to see kind of where we're coming from here. So let me make sure I do this at the right place here. So woo, there's Aspirite, which is a program that I really like and really had fun working with over time. I still like doing pixel art and things like that, but see, this is not exactly what I'm trying to do. This is just kind of a concept like, what do we do with shading? We'll come back with that later. But here's the idea, just like, okay, do I have some mountains in the background, and then you have your little foreground here. That's your dirt road that you go down here, and then you have your cart and you animate your cart. I never even drew something that would be pulling the cart or something, but considering where this is, it wouldn't necessarily be like a horse or an oxen or something, or things could change all the time, you never know. But see, that's part of it. It's just like if we're looking at my art skills, there is a bunch of famous sayings that come down to this. Mastery is really just practice perfected. There's so many different ways to put it, but the old 10,000 hour phrase is the idea that you have to work at something for a really long time to get good at it. And you can see here that eventually I could turn this into something better or something workable. I think there's two challenges for me. One is that I've always sucked at drawing. I won art awards in kindergarten and never improved. That's where I peaked. The other thing though is that I never have really, because I kind of suck, I've never been able to kind of develop my own visual style. And I think that's something where a game like Chained Echoes has a great visual style. Symphony of War, not as much, but it's not some, well, okay, the combat style's good, but it's not Chained Echoes level. But let's take a look at, I'm bracing for myself here. Oh, okay. Now if you've seen like early game alpha version stuff, you know that like game boards, combat boards, things like that didn't necessarily work. And I was just going to have like a 2D fight thing. If you've played Ogre Battle, you know there's a group on one side and the group on the other, and they punch each other. If you haven't done that, look at Symphony of War, because that's exactly what they did. I thought, there's no way I'm drawing 8 directional sprites and having diagonal people. So we have this instead. I did try to do kind of another mock-up here to make it look a little bit more like Ogre Battle. Like you have your tiles. The idea would be like Ogre Battle. You could have some creatures that took up more than one tile, depending on how you wanted to make your squadron. But it's fine. But go ahead and get your laugh hats out here, because if you are looking at a dead project, I gotta at least embarrass myself a little bit here. So you can say, how do you want your characters to look if you're doing a pixel art? This is attempts at trying Morgan Wyatt, who you may remember as the protagonist in one of the Starsector series. 3, 2, 1, nailed it! Oh God. No, it's bad, and I mean it's not the worst. I mean his arms are like as long as I don't want to say, but just like mock up here. Here's another person you don't know. I learned that drawing bald people in pixel art is very difficult, and I don't understand that. Oh, that's actually the first one I did, and it's terrible. And I decided, you know what? Let me not reinvent the wheel. Let's try something a little bit more grounded, something a little bit more smaller. So I tried to look at some of the Square Enix kind of style pixels here, going for a smaller dimension, especially since Godot can, much like GameMaker, let you scale up things here. So there's just generic enemy, almost looks like just someone hanging out at a bus station listening to like their headphones or whatever. Here's same character again, now with not so crazy hair. I don't know what I was thinking. Like I said, it's better, but it's not my own style. It's just borrowing from other things, which I know that's a lot of art. There's Morgan, who looks way better than he's wearing a dunce cap. So that's a plus. And there's same guy here. This is supposed to be a mustache, by the way, so it just looks like his face is terrible. But a little bit of an improvement there. Like I said, if I were willing to work on this more and iterate more and put time into it more, it's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm freaking exhausted, and that's terrible. Here's another person. Ooh, mysterious, no face. But yeah, that's kind of what it goes down to. You have something where even when, and I did this on stream a while ago, you take a look at something like this and you can see, oh, there's some pixel art stuff chipping away here. And look at the night version, which I will tell you that I based this Starscape a lot more on like when I was up in the mountains, actually out in Cherokee, North Carolina. And I went out in the middle of the night just to be like, what does this low light night sky look like in the middle of the night? And I was very surprised because it was a lot grayer than it was black. So that's what I did there. And I mean, there's let's put it this way. If this was something that I would continue to work on, there might be some potential. I mean, it's never going to look like the source photograph for this, which is over here. And I don't know if this is the exact source photograph, but this is kind of the idea. I never was really able to get like the differentiation of foreground versus background. But I like landscapes. I like drawing landscapes. It's fine. But just at the end of the day, if I'm having to spend so much time catching up to like draw appropriately and make it look good, that's going to take some time. And we haven't even talked about music. I'm not going to talk about music today because that's something I still want to explore on the channel later. But yeah, that's the death knell, as it were, was just, you have all this stuff that's here. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, because there's one more thing that I have, and that is a freaking manuscript. Now I'm not gonna go through all of it. It's still in a series of rewrites. It's still not the biggest thing ever by any stretch of the imagination. I'm tracking changes. I'm deleting things. It's just kind of like, whoa. Some people would say, why would you be putting your writing work on a video? But if my biggest stack of something, of the work that I've done, is actually the written component of it, and I like writing is my favorite part of this, then that's kind of where I'm at and where I'm gonna go for. So that's the idea. And let me go ahead and turn off the display capture, go back here. Oh, I got a problem, by the way. And I don't know if I can make my face here bigger. That may be dumb, but we're going to do it anyway. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to edit this and make it work later. Oh, I'm so tired. I got bags under my bags under my bags. It's very exciting. But you take a look at like, okay, so I ditch all the game stuff. I just go to write a book. And I'll tell you, the Discord's been great for recommending some books for me to read lately. I've really been enjoying some of the Terry Pratchett stuff. I got back into some other stuff too. Once again, we have a small Discord here. I've had a few people tell me your channel's almost 10,000 subscribers and yet your Discord is tiny. Yeah, it's a slow burn of a channel. But let me give you a quick elevator pitch of the story. It is the story, the premise for the game. It's also the premise for what I'm writing. So hopefully I can make it work for you pretty fast here, because there's a lesson here that we can talk about as well. So the title of it is Immortal Exodus, and it's kind of supposed to be a two-tone title because you have people that had run away from a group of humans that end up taking over the world because they can no longer die. They've discovered how to do it. Hooray, science fiction. They make it to another planet, and they do happen to get there ahead of time, but due to the eventual conflict when the other people, the immortal people in their own spaceship, catch up and just there's a big fight and it's bad. The people that ran away get knocked back from being a spacefaring civilization all the way down to just like not sticks and stones, but like Metal Age, and looking for old ancient world artifacts that they don't really understand what's going on. But the way that they can catch up is to go through and sort of, they've learned that there's this creature that's living in the place that they're at that they can just tap into the energy for and use that, and clearly that never happens bad at all. And I've literally just described Black Sun Rising, which is a very good book. I'll just give you the whole thing here. Now granted, the same thing that I'm trying to do is not as malevolent as Black Sun Rising, but there's not an original idea out there. But it's okay, because these are people that go into a world and there's these fantastical creatures, and there's just all this opportunity to try and build back and create a better society. And then there's a star that appears in the sky, and people are freaking out because what happened in the past, hundreds of years in the past, has kind of turned into legend, turned into some prophecy of like, okay, when the star appears in the sky, that means something is going to come and destroy you. But maybe the people can use their power here that can take the form of a dragon or something or whatever to go and fight this thing that's coming right for them, which, by the way, it's the Immortals in another spaceship that's coming back here. No, I've pretty much just described Dragon Riders of Pern. I mean, not totally. I mean, there's literal dragons here, and we have like energy, electricity things here. But there's a lesson, and the lesson's very simple, is that you have an idea. Somebody's already done it before. So there's no pressure. That's really what it boils down to. And these are good books. All that tells me, I mean, I see people freaking out all the time, both in video game development forums before, Reddit in general, writing communities in general. It's like, oh my God, I just discovered someone else has my idea. Good! That means your idea works. And that's kind of where I'm looking at here, is that you scrap all the stuff that I'd have to learn to do. I can just do the thing that I like to do that, in my opinion, I'm good at. I'm sure an editor would say, fuck no, you're not. But in my opinion right now, it's good enough that I can do it, which is the point. So, yeah, maybe I have some ideas that have been done before, but you just make it your own. You just put your own people in there, do your own thing with it, have some fun with it, and it turns into something or it doesn't. But I would rather be creating than sitting and staring blankly at the wall at the end of the day saying, oh, I'm too tired to do shit. Because I'd rather just be writing at those late hours when it's my time and the kids are not going to sleep and the cats are saying, why haven't you fed me, you terrible human? So that's the lesson going forward. And hopefully the thing that I can take into 2023. Last year killed my dream of making a game. But it's a good thing because now I'm free, because someone's already doing what I was going to do much better and in a way that I've enjoyed. So now I can just make my own thing, and that's fine. What that means for the channel is that I am a big fan of, and goes back to my English teacher days, that I think a good writer is someone who enjoys reading as well. So I was hoping to do a little bit of this last year, and I didn't, because I'm irresponsible. My clients will tell you I'm irresponsible too, so it's cool. But my hope is to go a little bit more into some literature, some analysis of that as well. I really want to just read out some old stories that I have, just so that my kids, I mean, like old stories that I enjoy, not ones that I've written. I have a few of those too, but y'all don't want those. But something that my kids can pull up later and be like, well, here's a recording of this thing, for instance. So that's something I want to do on the channel here in the future. Obviously, it's still primarily a games focused channel. For those of you who don't know, the reason that I've even went into making YouTube games videos is not for fame, not for money, not for really any of that. It's just because I enjoy playing games a lot. It's always been a big part of my life, but there's really not anybody in my life that I can talk to about the games that I play. So it's always exciting to be able to share things with you all, and it's great to hear back from you all as well. So 2023 is going to be a different year. Am I still going to be busy as hell? Yes. It's only January something, and I already have 8 trials scheduled for, and these are, let's put it this way, for like the first half of the year. It's exciting. It means I'm working, which is good. And like I said before, I've spent the past few years getting better at my job. But at the same time, I want to do a little something for myself as well. And part of that involves this channel, and part of that involves writing some stuff. And hopefully that's something I can share later. I'd love to be able to actually have a completed rewrite in the near future, and maybe even a second draft towards the end of the year. It's going to be long, and that's okay. And an editor will tear it to pieces, and it wouldn't be the first time I've had my work torn to pieces. Thanks, law school. So once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. If you're new, I can't believe you sat here and listened to the whole thing, so you're awesome. Chained Echoes, Symphony of War, 2 excellent games. I highly, highly, highly recommend them. We'll see what Dreams 2023 kills. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to pop onto the Discord. When this goes up, I'll have opened up a new channel called 10,000 Days. No, that's not what it's called. 10,000 Hours. I almost said 10,000 Years. It's like, what are we doing? I don't even know. I've gone too long. All right. But thank you all for being here. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, thumbs up. I'm just looking at the camera now. I don't even know what I mean here. So happy to share some stuff with y'all. Just want to give y'all some insight into how I'm doing. I'm still alive. I had to do some cuts here because of coughing and cats and the usual, but hey, I'll see you around and hopefully more frequently in the near future. You all take care.